Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Kanessa Carey. If you are not new here, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. So I kind of feel like this video needs a little bit more background to what I'm going to be talking about, but I honestly just don't really feel like making that video yet, and I'm not really sure if I want to go there and how far in depth I want to go there. Today's video is about how to develop a healthy relationship with food. So I'm going to be just listing off a few things and explaining them, and these are all things that I have actively done and sometimes still actively work on to maintain my healthy relationship with food. It took me a long time to get there. So the background that I'm talking about is like my eating disorder history. I don't really want to get into that. It's just a lot, and I just really don't have the mental or emotional capacity for that right now, because honestly I'm so far removed from most of it that it's just like taxing to talk about. But I will just give a little preview. When I was in high school, I struggled with an eating disorder called anorexia. I struggled with it for like 1 or 2 years maybe, I don't know. Before that, I struggled with something called orthorexia. I am about 5 years into eating disorder recovery, so I'm very far removed from like everything that I struggled with, and honestly I'm in a great place, and that is the only reason why I'm making this video, because if I did not have a stable relationship or healthy relationship with food, I would not be making this video. Stay tuned for that video. There will be another video coming. So today we're going to talk about some things that really helped me develop a healthy relationship with food. Now I'm gonna put a little like disclaimer out there. I'm not a dietitian, nor am I a nutritionist, nor am I a therapist. So these are just things that have helped me learn what has worked for me and create a healthy relationship with food. These might work for you, they might not. Take what you want and leave what you want. And I think I'm gonna give you like 4 or 5 like quick little tips. So number 1. So the first thing that'll help you develop a better relationship with food is to not label foods as good or bad. And I'm sure you see it everywhere. It's all over any social media, really. So when we define foods as good or bad, we're adding a moral implication to them. So diet culture is sneaky. Just to like rewind really fast, I'm gonna give you a definition of diet culture. Let me read it to you. Diet culture is a system of beliefs and social behaviors that values body weight above health and well-being. Diet culture means we have been programmed to think the only way to achieve good health, well-being, and social status is by making our bodies smaller, or what we call the thin ideal. That's just a little like definition of what diet culture is. So let me get back into my first tip. So when we add a moral implication to food, we're in turn saying that we are either good or bad. So if you eat a bad food, therefore you are bad. But if you eat a good food, therefore you are good. But instead, we can turn that around and say something like, hey, I ate a cupcake and it was freaking delicious. I can have 1 or 2 of them if I want. When we actually listen to our bodies and listen to what our bodies need, we're gonna be able to know way better what we need in that moment. Ultimately, when you practice listening to your body and listening to its cues and what it's craving and what it needs, you then in turn are helping your body trust you. Because let me tell you, your body is so smart, and literally, honestly, it's smarter than you are. So your body knows what you need. Let's just practice listening to it. Number 2. Say no to diets. Unless you are living under a rock, you realize that there are like 14,000 diets in our world. And that number may be like a little bit high, but to be honest, there are so many diets that we're just bombarded with all the time. So there are 3 main reasons. Okay, honestly, there's a lot, but we don't have like 5 hours for me to tell you why I hate diet culture so much and why I don't like diets. But there are 3 main reasons why I will never go on a diet. Number 1, diets disconnect us from what our body truly needs. So hunger and fullness cues, what your body actually wants, listening to our body, all of those things go out the window when you diet. Number 2, there is no such thing as a perfect diet. If there was a perfect diet, there would be one diet advertised in our world. Yet there are so many stinking diets out there that are advertised. But guess what? God made us all unique, and we don't all need to eat the same, and we don't all need to look the same. Because even if all of us ate exactly the same, we would not all look the same. And 3, diets almost always revolve around losing weight. Not to mention, diets value thinness and what your body looks like, and ultimately you are way more than your body. The third thing that really helped me develop a healthy relationship with food was to not look at labels. Once I stopped doing this, my life literally changed. I was no longer obsessed with macros, and I just fed myself what my body wanted, and I nourished myself based on how much my body needed versus how much a nutrition label says I should have. First of all, it's just not helpful to see the macronutrients for every single thing you're eating because it becomes very obsessive very quickly. I used to, in the depths of my eating disorder, literally everything I ate, I knew the macronutrients, and I knew, like, I memorized nutrition labels. And it's not because I was sitting there like memorizing them instead of like studying for a test, but it was because like I looked at them so much that I literally knew the nutrition facts and like how much fat, how much salt, how much sugar, how much carbs, how much protein was in each thing I ate. And it was very obsessive and very stressful, and it took me a long time to like get all that stuff out of my head and not just automatically look at a nutrition label. Thankfully, I'm so far removed from all of that that I literally don't care what a nutrition label says anymore. Obviously, like, I make good decisions for my body and what I've come to know that my body needs, but focusing so much on those things just really wasn't healthy for me, and it can really help you develop a better relationship with food and ultimately a better relationship with your body. The minute I stopped obsessing over nutrition facts was the minute I just felt so free. I was no longer dictating what I ate and literally dictating my life off of nutrition labels, and instead I was just eating food because it fueled me and it gave me energy and it made me feel good. And the foods that didn't make me feel good, like, I don't eat. That's why I don't eat gluten and dairy, because they make me feel horrible. And like, that's just how my body is, and it sucks because I would love to eat some gluten here and there, and I'd love to eat some dairy here and there, but you know, it's just not a thing for me. Not looking at nutrition information can be so good for your mental health. The fifth thing I want to mention is to observe instead of judging the thoughts and emotions that you have around food. So this kind of comes back to the first point I made, which is like labeling foods as good or bad. And a lot of times if you eat a bad food, that can lead to guilt and shame and regret. And you know what? It's okay to experience those feelings, but also at the same time, it's really not like healthy to judge yourself in that way. So a lot of times when I was in the beginning of my eating disorder recovery, I was eating fear foods and foods that I deemed as bad, and I was really challenging myself in those things because ultimately, like, I wanted to see food as food, and like if I wanted it, I would eat it. And I dealt with a lot of guilt and a lot of regret and like, oh man, I wish I didn't eat that. Now I feel gross. Now I feel bad about myself. I just had all these negative thoughts. I would judge them a lot because that was just second nature for me, I guess. I think a lot of times when we are so used to labeling foods as good or bad, we kind of like are taught to feel guilt and feel shame about what we're eating and how we're eating and how much we're eating and all this stuff. So when I did struggle with shame and guilt, I would first just observe that instead of going to the immediate judgment. I would observe. A lot of the times I would be like, okay, like, why did I do it? You know, you might eat something that you deem as like bad because you skipped lunch and your body was starving and that was the first thing you saw, so you grabbed a handful of cookies. It is what it is, you know? Or maybe you grabbed a handful of cookies and you'd already eaten, and maybe you were just craving something and your body emotionally or physically needed something out of those cookies that you can just accept and be like, hey, I feel good. That's what my body needed. And you kind of just learn based off your observations about what you're feeling, because those feelings are helping you learn from those experiences. So instead of judging yourself, you can be like, hey, my body just must have really needed those. I feel satisfied. I feel good. And I'm not going to be craving those cookies for another year and a half, because a lot of times I think we deny ourselves of things that our body really needs and that our body wants, and then in turn end up eating way more of it than we would have. When you listen to your body and give your body what it needs, it will learn to trust you. I just want to end with this. Your body is the least interesting thing about you. I know that that is the opposite of what diet culture preaches and the opposite of what every single diet out there says. It says instead that your body is the most important thing about you, that you need to look a certain way, that you need to do this a certain way to achieve this certain body. But that is not true, because your body is the least interesting thing about you. That just is like a huge weight off your shoulders, because I can guarantee you that, like, I have never become friends with someone or not been friends with someone because of the way their body looks. With that being said, I'm all for being active, being healthy, and doing what works for you and what works for your body. But what everyone's body needs is gonna look different, and everyone's bodies are gonna look different. At the end of the day, your body is the least interesting thing about you. So please, 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 please just give yourself grace. Developing a healthy relationship with food is not always easy. It took me years, and it's still not something that I'm perfect at. Me learning to trust my body and fuel my body the way that it needs to be fueled has helped me so much. And also just realizing that my body is the least interesting thing about me, and that people are gonna love me because of who I am, and other things about me that have nothing to do with my body. These are just things that have helped me in the past, things that still currently help me, and things that I've done to develop and continue to develop a healthy relationship with food. If food is something you are struggling with, I encourage you to reach out. There are so many resources. I know a lot of resources cost money, which can be hard. I think a lot more things should be accessible. Even if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer those within my scope. I don't have a very large scope in this, but I do have experience in struggling with this kind of stuff. So even if it was just sharing my experience, I would love to do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that this helped a little bit. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming back to my channel. I hope you have a great day, night, morning, whenever you're watching this. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.